Welcome to Lightroom Photography. Today we are going into analog photography and I have a very special camera to show you and to show you some images of it. So I love photography, and as a working photographer I have my camera gear stuff. It's a full-frame camera, fast prime lenses, and that doesn't change. But as a hobbyist, as somebody who loves photography beyond just having it as a job, but also as a passion and a lifestyle choice, I always go into something different than what I usually use. So there are always moments when I go into other kind of photography, like analog photography. This is a medium format camera. You look through here to take the picture and then voila. But it's today not going to be about this camera. There are other analog cameras that I have and have used. Here's a very old one. So this is a really old one. I just wanted to show you a couple of them. This is one. Here's a very looking like a modern DSLR. This is one of the latest Canon film cameras. You get them very cheaply on eBay today. And here's a very classical Canon one, the Canon AE1. Very beautiful camera, and it's really fun to use these cameras. And they're also cheap, but today we're going to take probably a look at the most cheapest camera of them all in terms of analog cameras. So how much probably costs the cheapest camera? Let me show you how it looks like. It actually looks like this, and the packaging looks like this. Now this is a Kodak one. There's a variety of brands who create kind of the same cameras in terms of what they are. They are one-way only cameras, so you have, in this case it's 27 images plus 12 images actually, but let's say it's a 27 image camera, so I can take 27 images on film. So here's a film inside, and when the film is full I send this in and I don't get this back. This is only to take one film and then the camera is done. This costs around €6. And what you get for it, you get the film, which alone costs a couple of euros. It costs €3 to €4 the film alone. But for €6, you not just get the film, you get the camera. You turn the wheel. You can also use a flash on it. You got automated everything. Automated autofocus, automated exposure metering, automated everything. And you know, every once in a while we go to Spain, and I thought whenever I go there I bring something else with me. An analog camera, medium format, a normal analog camera, a different lens, a kind of light, a new smartphone. And a couple of the last times I used this one, or a couple of these, they don't always were by Kodak, but they were always in the price range of €5.95, €6.95, €7.95 in that price range. This is probably €7.95 because it has 27 plus 12 images. The other ones just had 27 images. And let me show you the images that I took with these cameras, now edited. This is the funny stuff. When I got these cameras and I got the film full, I got them developed and I got the images back, and with the images I also got a CD with it. And on the CD I had the files, so I could put them in Lightroom, and at the end of the video we will take a look at the images in Lightroom, how I edited them. And here are the images that I edited in Lightroom from that €6 camera. Now isn't this crazy? At the end of it I will show you all images. So I have five different films. I used 5 different of these cameras. They all were super cheap, €6-7, and the development did cost around 10, 11, 12 euros. The development, which means that I got the film developed, so I got the film pieces here. I got the CD with it, with the files, so I can use them on my computer. And I got the printed images also, all this for 10, 11 euros. So when you put it all together, like €6 for the camera plus 11 euros for the print and the CD, you're nearly about 20 euros for 27 images, which is actually a pretty high cost thinking about somebody who's usually using digital cameras, but it's a very different approach to photography using analog cameras, because you only have, in this case, just one film per camera. I brought 3 cameras in December 2019, I brought 2 cameras in February 2020, and it's a really different approach to photography, because I only have 27 shots and that's it, and there are not more. If this camera is full, I can't use it anymore. So I went out always and try to get 1 camera per day, so to say. So when I took out this camera, I got the film full during the day, but I did not shoot as I usually shoot, bam, 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 bam. I had to be careful because 27 images had to last for the whole day. And so let's take a look at the images right here, the printed ones, and then we go into Lightroom to see how we can edit them. These are all JPEG files that we're going to edit. There's no RAW, nothing like RAW, all JPEG, and I was really fascinated to the capacity in which we could edit these files. So let's take a look at the images. So here are now the images printed straight from the film camera, and this is what comes out of it without any kind of editing, and I think they're really nice images here. And now think about the price. It costs €6, €7 for the camera with the film, and I find it really incredible. Now, not all images are sharp and on point, but that was also not what I expected. It did need to be perfect. This is not a camera that you use to get perfect images, especially when you have cameras that cost thousands of euros. There you have that perfect tool. This is a tool to be fun, to be creative, to be different. And I'm really happy about, for example, the exposure. The images all look pretty well exposed. Sometimes there was a high dynamic range, so a lot of light and a lot of shadows. And I think the camera handled really, really well. Here's an image indoors. Let me just get the focus right here. Here's an image indoor. Maybe I put the autofocus off. And I think that's the weak point of this camera. You can't use it well indoors. It's pretty dark and it's really noisy. And we will see that when we go into the editing in a moment. But other than that, when you have sunlight and you shoot outdoors, you get some really nice images. Now here I got too close. I took this picture like a selfie and I'm not in focus, or we're not in focus. But all in all, I think I'm really happy with these images without any kind of editing. I mean, this would be a nice image printed largely. And there were really no images that turned out pretty bad. Sometimes the focus was off, but it was also maybe my fault because I was too close and the focus distance wasn't in that focus distance. So I may have been too close to the subject. So I wanted to show you these images printed so you see what you can get out of this cheap camera. And as a working photographer, I'm in the digital world. I do everything digitally. I can very well shoot anything with it without costs. But as a hobbyist, this is something very interesting. It was so much fun to be limited to 27 images. I mean, you can always say, I'm just taking 30 images today, and even on your digital camera, but it doesn't work that well because it's not true. You probably take more images and you can take more. And when you only really have 27 images to take, it's a really great approach because you change so much, because you have to be very careful what you photograph. And I thought, let's make a different video, not about the greatest gear, the greatest lens, the greatest camera. Let's go back to the basics. Let's take the cheapest camera you can find and let's see what we can get with it. So I think that was it. And yeah, these are the images, the selection of the images that I got with this very cheap camera. So now we're in Lightroom and I have here the 5 films that I've developed, and I've developed them with getting a CD with the images so I can put them here in Lightroom. And the images that we see here are all images. I have not deleted none of them. So the good images and the bad images, you see them all here. And what you can see at first sight is already shooting outdoors can give you really beautiful images, while shooting indoors is not the strength of this camera. which is totally fine because the camera costs 6-7 euros. Think about $6-7. It's a camera that has all the automatic modes, autofocus, auto metering, auto exposure. It also has a flash, and the film is in that camera as well. And the film alone can cost 3 to 4 euros or $3 to $4. And these are the images unedited. I thought let's just take a look at them all together here, so you get a feeling of how the images look like, and then we can go into the images and just try editing them. So this is an analog camera. It takes 27 images or so. I get JPEG files, so I have here a JPEG file from a CD that I got when I let the images be developed, and on the left side I have my preset pack here. So when I go over one of these presets, you see exactly immediately what happens to the image. So let's start off with a black and white look. So let's go to Contra. Let me make it a little bit darker, and so let me just copy what I just did to all the other images. Synchronize everything, yes. Now the only thing I have to do now is go through these images and straighten the horizon and make the images brighter or darker, and then the image is finished completely. Now what you will see here is, first off, you can beautifully edit these images. Second is, I don't have the grain on, and yet the images are kind of grainy. So the images have their own character just by themselves as they come out of the camera. It's an analog camera, it's an analog film. And I really like the images that we got here and how easily we can edit them. I mean, there are people who tell you should not edit JPEG files, but just look at how beautifully I can click on Bleu by Duxon and get an image like this. I can click on, let's click on Coloria, and we can get an image like this. Or let's go to Gringo and we get an image like this. And we can copy that to the next images. Let's just do that now. Or to the last one, so you see the last images. So let's go to the first one. And now you see the Gringo look on all these images we just looked at. And you can just click on any kind of preset here on the left side and you get some images. Now here you see some of the weaknesses of this camera. I was indoors, I'm shooting indoors, and you see how grainy everything is, how bad quality it is when you shoot indoors. So this is not a camera that you want to use indoors that much. It has a flash, but with flash, without a flash, it doesn't really matter. It's not a good idea to use it indoors. You see this, see the noise here. It's not a great idea. But when you're outdoors, you get some really beautiful images, and you will not see actually how cheap the camera is. Now look at these images. This is unedited and this looks already fine. And if I now go to a preset here, let's just take a look. We can click on any one actually. Let's go to Blue and copy it to the next images. So the next images have the same look. This way I always edit every image, whether I'm on a wedding or portrait photography, or I have a business shooting with employees. This is the way I edit. I have my selection, which in this case are all images from the films. But usually I have a selection, I click on one preset, and then I copy that preset to all other images. And then super quickly I'm done with the editing part. It doesn't need to take much time. If you want these presets as well, I put the links in the description below. You can find them on my website for pretty little money. It's over 40 presets for around 40 euros. So it's €1 per preset, and they all look very different. So you really get a big variety in looks. And I think you see how versatile we can edit these files if we like to. And I mean, many people talk about raw editing and you should never edit a JPEG file, but I think when the image is taken, when the exposure is fine and the white balance is fine, then you can edit without much compromise. This is my experience with my cameras that I have. And this is, I think, probably the cheapest camera you can find. Imagine it being sold for €6 new with a film, an analog camera. And the development of the film cost around 10 to 12 euros. So you get all images printed plus the images on DVD or CD. Okay, let's just take one more image here from the beach. I can click on black and white 2, got a final image, or I click on anything else, haze, make it a little bit darker, have the final image, or I can click on orange bleu and I have the final image with one click. Super easy. Now I also took some images at a car show that was indoors, and let's just take a look at these images. These are the unedited ones, and you see many of them are pretty dirty. I mean, this image is okay, but you see how much noise there is and how dirty the image looks. And some images are just way too dark. I used the flash here, but still with the flash, most of these images don't work well. I mean, an image like this might work. I can just take a preset here like this. And this might be a nice image, which actually looks like a shot from the 70s. But in general, shooting indoors is not a good idea. With flash, without flash, doesn't matter. But when you're outdoors, so I've just edited these images, so let's go through them together. So here are now all images I took, even the ones that didn't work out, I left all inside. And sometimes I got an image like this, which I don't really understand. It might be the first or the last image of the film. And I mean, an image like this, I think this looks really nice if you look from it in a small size. But if you look at it in a big size, on a big screen, full size, you see how dirty it is. But shooting outdoors, I think we got some really nice shots here. I'm super happy with these files, and I also use my expensive cameras here, like the Canon EOS RP or the 6D Mark II, and the images look super similar. I mean, an image like this, I could have taken it also with a big Canon camera with expensive lenses. Now, of course, when you zoom in, it's not so sharp. It's a plastic camera for 6 euros with the lens, with the film, with all the automatic modes on it. You cannot set anything on the camera. There is no autofocus point. There is no... you can set nothing. You only can push the trigger. But when I look at these images here, and these are all images I took, there is not actually one image that is really bad in exposure. There's not one image that is really dark or really bright. They are all pretty much on point or nearly on point. Unless we look in the really dark scenes where the indoors. But these images I took outside, I think all of them turned out pretty well in terms of exposure. And autofocus is also totally fine. I mean, it's not super sharp, which is totally fine. I got much more than I expected. I just wanted something different to shoot. This is me on holidays, so I'm always looking for a new experience for me. Photography should be fun, and I always look for something that makes it fun and different. So I also had my Canon camera with me, also with different lenses, the Neptune system from Lomography. But you see now 5 films, and there are only a few images that are really bad. The images I took indoors, which was totally my fault because that's not what this camera is shining. And some images didn't turn out for whatever reason. But in general, from all the images, I think there are many images that turned out really well. And I highly recommend just buying 1, 2, 3 of these cameras, and maybe for the next holiday trip or when you walk around town, just play with it. It's a very different experience. You are limited in the images you can take. You only have 27 images, more or less. So you choose much wiser what you photograph. And nearly every image you take will be a keeper. That's my experience. So thank you very much.